talking about the possible pardons of Fauci and Cheney and Schiff. I don't know if you've talked about that much, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I thought it was a article from Babylon Bee or something. I thought it was a joke, man, but apparently there's some truth to it. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts on pardons are as follows.
Have you talked about it today? I haven't heard you talk about it.
I talked about it very briefly to start the show, but I'll talk about it with you now, and I'm happy to. And this is important that I bring this up. Donald Trump pardoned literally murderers, people that killed innocent civilians in Iraq. He literally pardoned murderers. The reason why I would have no problem with some of these pardons is as follows. The guy who you think is going to be a great FBI director is a conspiracy theorist, and he's also a guy that has openly talked about going after people that disagree with Donald Trump. He's talked about going after people legally who refuse to say that the 2020 election was stolen. Point being, he's a lunatic and he's crazy. And even many Republicans agree with me on that. Kash Patel should not be anywhere near the FBI director's position. Now, do I think that Liz Cheney broke the law? Have I seen any evidence to prove that Schiff committed some heinous acts and crimes, or even Anthony Fauci? No, I haven't. They've been investigating them for years now, and I haven't seen anything. The reason why I wouldn't have a problem if Joe Biden did pardon these individuals is because we know that Kash Patel is going to be going after some of Donald Trump's rivals. That's why I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. If it did happen, which we don't know if it will or not.
No, I'm just thinking the perception of a pardon for Fauci, I think would break the confidence a lot of people have in our healthcare professionals and experts.
So you think
you're going to give a guy a pardon for what? I mean, if he committed crimes, let's investigate him. But
okay,
don't
well,
just
he has been investigated, and they haven't come up with anything. But if your worry is about perception and healthcare and the health of our the well-being of people in this country, and you care about perception, you think the guy that says that vaccines are all bad and they cause all these diseases to children, which has been debunked, and the conspiracy theorist and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that's actually not true. That's been completely debunked. There's no evidence that the COVID vaccines cause autism, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not going to entertain that stuff. But yet you care about perception, yet you have no problem with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being the leader of our health in this country. You have no problem with that?
I'm a big fan of RFK Jr., what he did against Monsanto. I think he's had a lot of good legislation. He has a lot of concerns that are valid concerns. I don't know if you look around.
What legislation
the average American is.
What legislation are you talking about?
I'm talking about the lawsuits as a lawyer, he did for environmental cleanups, and also Monsanto.
So now all of a sudden, you like the Green Deal? Now all of a sudden, by the way, that's not legislation. He has never passed a bill.
I didn't mean legislation.
Okay.
I'm talking about legal.
So now you care about the Green New Deal. Now all of a sudden you care about the environment. I thought you didn't. You thought that AOC and all these people were crazy. Now all of a sudden you're all for the Green New Deal and environmental cleanup. I'm confused.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely against the Green New Deal, but
okay.
Being against Monsanto and chemicals and cleaning up our food, that has nothing to do with the Green Deal. The Green Deal doesn't talk about taking on big ag. Doesn't talk about our food supplies.
Gotcha. So let me ask you a question then. People like you criticized Michelle Obama, and I heard people like you that said, if I want to eat French fries all day and get fat and have a heart attack, I have the right to do that. People like you criticized Michelle Obama for giving children healthy lunches. But then when it's somebody that's appointed by Donald Trump, you want to tell, you think it's okay for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to tell us what we can or can't eat. So when it's a Democrat in office and when it's Michelle Obama, the first lady, who literally helped children eat healthier foods in schools, you never were willing to give her credit for that. But all of a sudden, Donald Trump, your Lord and Savior, hires somebody to be running our health, and it's okay for him to tell us what to eat. So if it's a Republican that appoints somebody, it's okay.
I can explain that. I can explain that, Brian. So that typically on the right, we are against federal mandates, federal programs to blanket across the country program like that. And the big problem that we saw with that, it was a big money grab because
Wasn't a money grab. In fact, it was the opposite of that, Patrick.
Right.
Patrick, it was not a money grab. In fact, it was cheaper. What Michelle Obama was able to do, and you could look this up if you don't believe me, this had nothing to do with a money grab. It had to do with giving children in schools healthier lunches. It had nothing to do with a money grab. I don't know why you're saying money grab. And the point I'm making still stands. People like you took issue with Michelle Obama. Oh, don't tell my kids what they can or can't eat. Don't tell me what I can or can't eat. If I want to be a fat you-know-what, like Donald Trump, and eat KFC all day, I have the right to do so. You had a problem with Michelle Obama. Had nothing to do with the money grab. But then when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talks about bad food, and that's what he's talking about, nutrition and chemicals and foods, you're totally okay with it now. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can tell us what we can or can't eat. But when it's a black Democrat that happens to be the first lady, all you guys are up in arms. Patrick, do you see where I'm getting at here? I might agree with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on some of the things he says. I still think he's an absolute bat, you-know-what, crazy lunatic who beheads whales and stages bear murders in Central Park and a habitual cheater. He's an awful human being. But I might agree with some of the things he says. But you see, it's okay if it's appointed by Donald Trump. You have no problem with it. But when Michelle Obama is trying to have our children eat clean and eat healthier foods, all of a sudden you call it a money grab. Patrick, it wasn't a money grab. It had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with nutrition.
You forgot RFK Jr., his wife committed suicide because of him, right?
You think that's funny?
That too, right?
You think that's funny?
Well,
you think
I
that's
think
funny?
It's funny that you say the same thing every show.
What do you think about that?
I think you said
what do you think about that?
Like 9 times.
What do you think about that?
I think you're low IQ is what I think.
You
I've
think
been listening to you long enough.
You think it's my low IQ because I bring up the fact that the guy that's in charge of our health wrote a diary about multiple times cheating on his wife. She read the diary, and then a week later she killed herself. And you think I'm, quote, low IQ because I bring that up. Meanwhile, you're the same moron, quite frankly, who brings up the Hunter Biden laptop, who is never a government official and never worked for Joe Biden. But somehow I'm low IQ because I bring up the fact that Donald Trump is assigning people to very powerful positions that are habitual cheaters and ex-wives killed themselves because of their behavior. And somehow you would characterize me low IQ for bringing that up. Patrick, I think most of my listeners know who the low IQ person is in this conversation, and I'll give you a hint. It's not the guy in front of a microphone. Thank you for the call, Patrick. I hope you get another cell phone. It sounds like you're on your Obama phone. I'm sure you'll all blame the Obamas for that as well. I'm low IQ. Okay. Meanwhile, the guy who votes for a 34-count felon and an adjudicated rapist, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, Patrick, that must mean I'm low IQ.
Past statements. Okay? Does that mean Joe Biden is a racist?
What did Joe Biden say that would lead you to believe that he's a racist?
Let's see. Black kids are just as smart as white kids.
So you disagree with that statement? You think it's racist to say black kids are just as smart as white kids? You have a problem with that statement? That's racist? Boy, what a terrible thing. Hold on. Let's go one by one. What a terrible thing. Hold on. Let's backtrack one statement at a time. Boy, what a terrible thing to say. That all minorities and white.
Can I finish?
You can finish, but let's dissect that. The first thing that you mentioned, because you claim Joe Biden is racist, is because he said black kids are just as smart as white kids. Wow, what a horrible thing to say. What a bigot. Go ahead, give me something else, sir.
The three individuals standing behind me, one of them looks like they could be playing ball, and the other two look like they could blow us up.
I don't know what you're talking about. When did he make? I don't know what you're saying.
Look that one up.
So one of them looks like they could be playing ball. What are we talking about? Baseball, basketball? Okay, so it can't be. So it can't be the fact that somebody might be physically built very strong or tall. Is that?
And the other two look like they could blow us up.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're gonna have to give me something else. I don't know what you're talking about.
They were brown skinned, Muslim looking.
Okay,
yeah.
I've never
look
heard.
That up.
Okay, I'll look it up. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
So Joe Biden. Okay, do you have anything else for you to lead you to believe that Joe Biden's racist?
I believe his vice president
No, she never
On
called
the
him a
debate
rapist.
stage.
No, she never called him a racist. That's wrong. Nope. Nope. I've heard this talking point a million times. Kamala Harris never called Joe Biden a racist. What she did say is that some of the way he voted, some of the yes, his policies. Yes, there's difference between policy.
That's what I was going to say.
There's a difference between policy. Okay, there's between policy and calling somebody a racist. Would you say Donald Trump's a racist or no?
With some of the things he has said, probably.
Probably. Okay. So when you say when he says,
I believe both men are racist.
Okay. Well, I think that's absolutely. I think that's absurd. Well, he did say that black people are as smart as white people.
Bird. I mean, look at Joe Biden's mentor.
Sure. By the way, that wasn't Joe Biden's mentor. Actually, Joe Biden was mentoring him. You obviously don't understand the context of the relationship. So I will explain it to you because that's what I do on this show every day. I'm sorry if you think I'm a little bit too loud. Hold on. I'm sorry if you think I'm a little bit too loud, but I'm going to try to educate you now. You see, Bird was associated with the KKK, as you know. I would assume you know that. And there are black people that actually become friends with members of the KKK because they try to change them. And that's exactly what Joe Biden did. And how do we know this? Because Bird was on the record. You can look this up. And Bird said Joe Biden took the hate out of his heart and changed his way of thinking. And they became friends because Joe Biden changed him. I know black people that have become friends with Klan members and have changed them as well. Bird spoke about that publicly. And instead of praising Joe Biden, you know, you're probably, and maybe I'm wrong, okay, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm wondering if you called into radio shows and talked about Donald Trump inviting Nick Fuentes to dinner at Mar-a-Lago, a Hitler wannabe, and Kanye West. There is no, the point I'm bringing this up, sir, is there's no comparison between Joe Biden and Donald Trump when it comes to racism and bigotry. Donald Trump has a long listed history of it, and Joe Biden is the opposite of that, quite frankly, sir. And the examples that you're giving,
he's got a long history of it.
He doesn't have a long history of it. Really?
No.
Really? So 25 years ago when he said he didn't want black people counting his money in his casinos and he wanted Jews counting his money, would you call that a long history or no? Because he was quoted as saying that and he never denied it.
Would you say Joe Biden is a racist? Long history with I don't want black children going to school with my kids because it'd be a jungle?
He didn't say he didn't want black people going to school with his kids. Again, you don't know what you're talking about. He never said that.
That's talked about exactly what he said.
No, he didn't. He talked about a racial jungle.
He's talking about busing.
So he said he didn't want black kids going to school with his kids. Is that what you're saying, sir? Direct quote.
He was talking about busing, and busing was talking about bringing black kids into white kids' school.
You just said. He didn't want black kids going to school with his kids, and that is factually.
What else would it have been?
You are making an assumption, and with all due respect, you're wrong. He talked again. You keep saying, go back and look it up.
My question is, what else would it have been if he's not talking about black kids?
Can I ask you a serious question, sir?
Talking about busing,
I want to ask you a serious question. Who did you vote for?
If he's talking about busing, who's he talking about?
I want to ask
the Asian kids?
I want to ask you a serious question now, and I'm hopeful that you'll be honest with me. Who did you vote for?
I didn't vote this year.
You didn't vote. Who did you vote for in 2020?
220?
Mm-hmm.
I voted for Biden.
Okay. 2016?
2016?
Yeah.
Didn't vote.
You didn't vote. Okay. Well, we both didn't vote in 2016, by the way. The reason why the reason why I asked that question.
2016, and I look at, and the reason I didn't vote in 2016 is because I could not support Hillary Clinton.
All right, I understand that. So let's move on to today, right? You said you didn't vote. Okay, you didn't vote for Harris or Trump. No. You seem to be somebody that cares about racial issues, right? Is that a fair analogy? You care about.
I care about common sense issues.
I understand. Who do you think is better, since we are talking about the issue of race, right, and race relations in this country? Who do you think would have been better for minorities in this country, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
It doesn't really matter now.
No, it does matter, because it's a conversation that we're having, and I want to know who you think would be better when it comes, since we've been talking about race for the last 15 minutes. Well, you didn't vote, but I want to ask you this question. Who do you think is better for minorities in this country, for people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, for people that are living in poverty, for the black communities out there? Who do you think would be better in government serving those people, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
Well, since I'll answer that. Since Kamala Harris ran her campaign on that, and that's all she ran it on.
That's not true.
Kamala Harris.
Well, yes, of course she would be better, but I would disagree with your assessment that that's all she ran on. I don't know why you would make that statement. She talked about, tax breaks for the rich and the fact that she wanted taxes to go down to 27% for people that are making under $400,000 a year. She talked about transgender issues. She talked about LGBTQ issues. She talked about raising men. She talked about a lot of issues, abortion, women's rights. So, well, you just said that she only ran on one thing, and you're wrong. She didn't.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah, you said transgender issues. Right now, the Supreme Court is hearing the case for puberty blockers for minors. Okay? Now, I listened to your last conversation that you had with somebody else, and y'all were talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Do you believe that minors should be allowed to transition?
First of all, I don't have kids. Okay, so it's not my decision to make. That's number one. Number two, I believe that is a decision that should be made between parents, doctors, psychologists, and I'm not any of those, and I'm not an expert, and I would imagine and assume that you're not either. But the people we have talking about this are people that are not experts in that field. And I'm not speaking about you individually, sir. I'm saying in general terms, there are a lot of bigots out there like Matt Walsh and those who don't think that transgender should exist, period. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm also not a father. So I'm not going to tell other parents what to do with their kids because guess what? I think that's wrong. And it's interesting how Republicans out there, not you, Republicans in general, that say they don't want government involvement, but yet when it comes to abortion or when it comes to transgenders, they want the government to get involved. I don't think it's a decision that we should even be talking about. We should let parents decide, let doctors decide. Would I say if I did have a kid, which I don't think, if I have a child, would I want them to go through puberty first and maybe wait until at least they're a junior or a senior in high school to make a decision like that? Yes, if I was a parent, I would not want my child to make that decision until they were at least 17 or 18 years old. But that's not the only thing that these right-wingers and transgenderism they're talking about.
I'd have to say, because you used the argument with Kyle Rittenhouse being a 17-year-old with a gun, I'd have to say you'd have to wait till 18 because a 17-year-old just can't make that decision.
Well, comparing an idiot 17-year-old who carries an AR-15 and camouflage into a
I don't even want to get into the Kyle Rittenhouse.
Well, you're the one who just made a weird analogy.
I'm just saying
the two
you can't you got to compare the two.
Okay, well you can't.
If you're not old enough to have a gun, you're not old enough to.
Okay, so
to decide whether you're a boy or a girl.
So if we're talking about old enough to have a gun, I actually think the age should be 21. But what you're missing in this entire conversation, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that this is a medical situation, and it is not a situation of a moron showing up with an AR-15 at the age of 17. The two are completely not identical, but I do appreciate your call, sir.
You must not have been following the case that well, because first of all, okay, listen to me closely now. First of all, you never mentioned he was on drugs, actively on drugs.
Doesn't matter.
Drugs at the time.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Irrelevant. Hold on. One at a time. Hold on. One at a time. I'll let you bring up something else. I'll be happy to, Herb, but let's do one at a time. Can you explain to me, if he was on drugs, which you claim he was, which I did hear he was on drugs, how that would defend Daniel Perry's actions? I heard the same thing about George Floyd. Oh, well, he was on drugs. Doesn't defend Derek Chauvin putting his knee on his neck for 8 minutes, and it certainly doesn't defend Daniel Perry putting his arm over his throat for that period of time, even after he was unconscious. So could you please explain to me the fact that this guy was on drugs, how that can work as a defense in a courtroom? Please explain that to me.
Because of his behavior, Brian. His behavior, he was threatening to kill people, and he also said he didn't care if he died.
Okay, so let me ask you. Okay, so that doesn't have anything. Okay, let's respond to that. No, we're going to go one at a time. We're going to go one at a time, and then I'll let you finish. You said his behavior, which, by the way, has nothing. It doesn't matter whether he was on drugs or not. His behavior. So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about his behavior for a moment. So if you're screaming and yelling, and let's just say you say, I'm going to kill somebody. Does that give somebody the right, a Samaritan, a citizen, to chokehold somebody and kill somebody? If you say, I'm going to kill somebody and I don't care if I die, does that justify anybody putting somebody in a chokehold and killing them? But does the law say if I threaten somebody and yell at somebody, that you can kill me? Please answer that question for me, Herb.
Brian.
Don't Brian me. Answer.
At a lady with a
he
child.
Never physically touched. Okay, so let me ask you another question.
Listen, Brian.
You won't answer
my question. Why don't you answer my question?
You're not answering mine. You're not answering mine.
Brian, I just answered your question.
Okay, no, you answered it by saying. You answered it by saying. You answered it. Herb, hang on. Let's be patient here, okay, Herb? You said he lunged at somebody. He never made physical contact with anybody. So I'm asking you the same question, and I'm going to even rephrase it, and hopefully you'll answer it, and then I'll answer your question, and you could ask me anything you want, okay, Herb? If you're screaming and yelling, and let's just say you threaten somebody's life, and you claim that he lunged at somebody, even though I didn't see that on tape, but you don't make physical contact with anybody, you don't have any weapons on you, does that mean that a regular everyday citizen will have the right to kill somebody? Why won't you answer my question? Answer the question.
Okay, I'll answer your question, Brian. His intentions weren't to kill him.
Doesn't matter. He did kill him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He did kill him.
Point being, that wasn't his intention.
That's why he's charged with That's why he's charged with second-degree manslaughter, not first-degree.
Brian, can we have a conversation?
Yes. Answer my question.
Okay.
Is that allowed?
Brian,
you haven't answered my question. Answer my question. I'm going to ask it again.
Brian.
No, you didn't. So you think it's justified in society if somebody is screaming and yelling and even threatens to kill somebody without making any physical contact with anybody, we as Americans are justified to kill that person. Whether it's our intent to kill them or not, it's justified to kill that person. Is that your take?
No, you're saying justified to kill the person. I'm not saying to kill him.
Okay, but he killed him. He killed him. He killed him.
Okay, but yes, he did kill him.
Yes, he did.
What I'm saying. Okay, Brian, you gonna let me talk?
Okay, so you're not answering my question. Go ahead.
I did answer your question, Brian.
So it's not justified.
All I said was I'm not saying that he didn't want to kill him. He wanted to control him.
I didn't ask you the intention. That wasn't my question, was his intention. I agree with you that his intention probably wasn't to kill that individual. But make no mistake about it, it doesn't change the facts he's dead. So I'm going to try to ask you again. It's yes or no. You haven't given me a yes or no answer.
You're going in circles, man.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you the same question over and over again, and you won't give me a yes or no answer. So I'm going to ask it one more time. And then if you answer yes or no, I will give you the opportunity to ask me anything you like, and I will give you the floor.
Okay, go ahead. Answer the question.
Thank you.
Again.
I'm going to ask. This is the
fourth.
Okay. I'm a child because you won't answer a direct question. Okay, that's
very
fair. I'm a child. Okay, fine, Herb. So the child is going to ask you a question, and we'll see if the adult can answer a question that the child is going to ask you. Okay, Herb. Okay. Right. So here's the question again, and I'm going to ask it for the fourth time because the child would like an answer. Okay, the adult refuses to answer. If in fact somebody is screaming and yelling and acting irrationally, and even threatens to kill somebody with no weapon shown, and even might have lunged at somebody without making one physical contact with anybody on that train, does it give the right for a citizen to put somebody in a chokehold, whether their intention is to kill them or not, and kill them? Is that legal? Yes or no? Answer the question.
Well, it's not a matter of it's legal. It's not right.
I didn't ask you. Pot him down. This is like 5 times I asked this guy a question, and he won't answer. I didn't ask you. The question wasn't, Herb, is it right? That wasn't the question. I'm now going to ask it for a 6th time. And he calls me the child, and the guy can't answer a direct question. Herb, is it legal? Should it be legal for somebody to put somebody in a chokehold and kill them, whether that was their intention or not, if somebody doesn't make physical contact with anybody, is not brandishing a weapon, but acts irrationally, screaming and yelling, and threatens verbally to hurt or kill somebody? Is it legal to put them in a chokehold and, in this instance, kill them? I didn't ask you if it was right. This is now the 6th time. It's a yes or no answer. Is it legal? Do you think it's legal to do that? Yes or no? Thank you.
No,
why,
Brian? Nobody does.
Okay, so why couldn't you just say that?
Legal.
Okay,
but because nobody thinks it's legal. It's not a matter of it being legal.
No, there are people that do. The last guy who called in thinks it's legal.
Brian, it's intent. But let me talk now. Now that you talk, let me ask you some questions. So he lunged at somebody. So you're on a subway, and you're on with a bunch of people, and you got some guy who you don't know, and he's threatening people to kill people on the subway, and he doesn't give a damn about what happens to him. And he lunges at a woman with a child, and you're going to tell me you don't want somebody, if not yourself, to get up and try to control this dude?
So here's what I would want. I will now answer your question. The first thing I would want people to do is call law enforcement. Now, if somebody, let me answer, Herb. I'm not finished. I'm not finished answering your question. So if you allow me to finish answering your question, I can tell you what somebody in law enforcement would do in that situation if they're on that subway. And I'll tell you what they wouldn't do. And I need you to listen very carefully. Okay, child? I need you to listen very carefully. By the way, a child, you ask a child a question, they'll answer it, and they won't have to, an adult won't have to ask them 6 times. So if anybody's the child, it's you. But I'm going to answer your question in the best way possible. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, there's someone in law enforcement. Of course, he hung up the phone because he's a coward, and he doesn't want to listen to an actual answer because he's not capable of answering questions himself. If somebody in law enforcement was on that train, here's what they would do. They would try to subdue that individual in law enforcement. They would try to put that individual in handcuffs. What they wouldn't do was put him in a chokehold for 8 minutes while they're unconscious, continue to put them in a chokehold. You know why they wouldn't do that? Because that would harm them physically and they could die. So what is somebody supposed to do? If you're a vigilante, if somebody makes physical contact with somebody, then you have the right to physically get involved. But just because somebody lunges at somebody, by the way, the lunge did not continue. He lunged, but he didn't make physical contact with anybody. That doesn't give you the right to kill somebody, Herb. A law enforcement and a professional individual on that train would not have done what Daniel Penny did. So you can call me a child, and you could call me stupid ass. I think we know who the stupid ass is in this conversation. The person who I had to ask the same question 6 times. Now, here's what's crazy about this whole conversation. I finally got Herb to admit that Daniel Penny's actions were not legal. He admitted it. It took him 6 times. I said, is it legal? Yes or no? He said no. And he's so stupid, he doesn't understand. That's my whole point. So since Herb finally admitted his actions were not legal, he said no, which I agree with. That's why Daniel Penny was charged with second-degree manslaughter, not first-degree, second-degree manslaughter, because they don't believe that it was his intent to kill, but it was still a death, and that's why criminal negligence, homicide, was also one of the charges. Herb, you answered your own question. It took 6 times to answer it because you're not very intelligent, but it took 6 times. No. What Daniel Penny did was not legal. And you're asking me, well, what would you do, Brian? Yes, I think a good Samaritan, the first thing you do is call police. And if there's somebody on the train that wants to try to subdue somebody, you don't put them in a chokehold until they die, Herb. It's the same people that put Kyle Rittenhouse on a pedestal, okay? They're saying Penny is a
Kyle
hero.
Rittenhouse was a hero.
Okay, well, that's absurd. And I can't.
Not.
Okay, first of all,
it's not absurd at all.
Okay, well, we can get into the weeds on that one, but I'll tell you why I completely disagree. First of all, even Kyle.
I mean, he killed a pedophile who was attacking him.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether he was a pedophile. I'll get to that. What somebody did in their past, it has no ramifications on the situation.
A pedophile who attacked a minor.
Okay.
And he killed him. I'm very thankful he did that.
Again, has nothing to do with what took place that day and irrelevant. But going back to what I said.
How is it irrelevant?
I'm going to explain it to you. First of all, Kyle Rittenhouse admitted himself that he shouldn't have been there. Number 2, Kyle Rittenhouse was acting like Mr. G.I. Joe. And if you think it's a good idea for a 17-year-old to show up with an assault weapon with no real experience in law enforcement to show up to a very dangerous situation, I think that would make anybody an imbecile. That's number 2. Number 3, we know that Kyle Rittenhouse, a week before that took place, on a video, said he was dreaming about shooting people that were stealing liquor out of a liquor store. That shows the train of thought of somebody. When I see somebody or hear about somebody shoplifting, normal people, the first thing that don't come to their mind is, I'd like to kill that person. No, you would say, hey, I'd like that scumbag to be held to account. They should be thrown in jail.
I mean, as coincidence would have it, the people who he killed just so happened to be attacking him. It wasn't like he just randomly killed people.
Did I call him a murderer?
No, I'm just saying.
Okay, so let me finish. I didn't call him a murderer. What I'm doing is setting the foundation of Kyle Rittenhouse is a moron. He should have never been there. He admits he should have never been there. He was
a moron's a different argument.
Okay,
I mean,
listen, if you're a 17-year-old kid, Well, you said he's a hero. Morons aren't heroes. A 17-year-old should not be showing up to a dangerous situation with a gun. Now, let's go to the 2 people that died and the third that was shot in the hand. Yes, right. The first guy absolutely physically assaulted him first. Don't care about that guy's past. All I care about is in the moment. You seem to focus on these people's past. It's irrelevant to what took place that day. The first person attacked him. He defended himself. Then what do you have? You have a large group of people that didn't see that first shooting, but they heard it. And how do I know about this? Right. Based on testimony. They saw an active shooter situation. They didn't know the circumstances. And a few of those individuals, the second person that he killed and the third person that he shot, and the third person testified to this, that they thought it was an open shooting situation and they were trying to save lives in doing so. The first guy deserved to die. I believe the second guy thought it was an active shooter situation, didn't know the circumstances, and was trying to do the right thing. I feel the same thing about the third guy. Now, do I think Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer? No, I don't. A jury decided. I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer. I think he's an idiot. Now, I don't think anything is heroic of what Kyle Rittenhouse did that day. What he did was stupid. He should have never been there. He should have never had a gun. And now he's getting paid by right-wing media entities making speeches. I don't want to hear a moron who should have never been there to begin with making speeches and talking about gun rights when he's the idiot at 17 years old with an assault weapon who dressed up like G.I. Joe. That's not a hero. You know who the heroes are? The brave men and women who serve this country honorably are firefighters and police officers.
He was going there to administer aid to the city that he frequents.
Then why was he? Then if he was just going there to administer aid, why was he dressed up a G.I. Joe with an AR-15? That's bullcrap, and you know it.
To defend himself from people who were attacking him. And as coincidence would have it, he was attacked.
He should have never been there to begin with. He admitted that.
Well, that's
and he was dreaming. See, this is why this is so important. And this was inadmissible in the case because the judge was also a moron, okay? A week before, he said this in the video. You can look it up. He was dreaming.
I know what you're talking about.
That's not a normal way of thinking for somebody that wants to help people and is just holding onto a gun to defend themselves. He literally said he was dreaming about shooting people for shoplifting. That is not a normal thing to say for someone who goes to a community and just wants to defend people. He literally said he wanted to shoot people for shoplifting. What normal human being, I don't care if you're 17 or 70, thinks when someone walks out of a store stealing bubble gum or a beer that they should die? That was the train of thinking of Kyle Rittenhouse, and that is not the thinking of a hero. That is the thinking of a moron and an idiot that should have never been rewarded, and he's now being rewarded for his stupidity.
See, what I say to that is, yeah, he was dumb to say what he said about the dream, but he was also a kid who had that dream, and I can understand that context because he was probably really pissed off of seeing the
I disagree. I disagree. 17 is not a child. 17 is old enough to know right from wrong, and 17 is old enough to know that if you shoplift, you don't deserve to be executed on the streets. It wasn't just him daydreaming. That was his way of thinking, sir, and he got his wish. He killed 2 people and he shot a third. He should have never been there to begin with. Now, I haven't called him a murderer. In fact, I've never called him a murderer. I've called him a moron. And right-wingers out there like the Charlie Kirks of the world are rewarding him, and you think he's a hero. I go back to what I said earlier. Heroes are not idiots. Heroes are not idiots at 17 years old that dream of killing people that shoplift. Heroes are firefighters who go into burning buildings and risk their life. Police officers that go in harm's way every day.
He killed people who were attacking him, period. That's literally what happened.
And he killed people who were attacking him because he wanted to be there in a very dangerous situation, dressed up like G.I. Joe. He wasn't there to provide aid to people. He was there because he wanted to be a tough guy.
That's literally what he said he was there to do.
Because he can say that if he wants to. O.J. Simpson also said he was innocent, okay? He can say that if he wants to.
But that's apples to oranges because you have to look at each specific case.
You're right, it's apples to oranges. Kyle Rittenhouse might have said after the fact that he wanted to help people, but what we know is a week before he said he wanted to kill people that were shoplifting. So you can't make the case, oh, he just wanted to help people when he's on tape a week before saying he wanted to kill people, Dave. He said he wanted to kill people for shoplifting.
Because he was there administering aid, or at least trying to.
He administered aid? He administered aid to people? What did he do to help people? What did he do? Besides dressed up as G.I. Joe, what did he do?
Yeah, he was saying how he was trying to like
what
put
did he
out
do?
like a dumpster that was on fire.
Oh, wow, what a hero. What a patriot. So a 17-year-old that shows up. Hold on. A 17-year-old that shows up dressed up as G.I. Joe with an AR-15 and might have put out a dumpster fire. I don't even know if that's true. That's a hero to you? Those are the people that are patriots?
Well, the thing of it is people that go and try to quell these riots that were going on in these Democrat cities, yeah, they're heroes because the Democrats in power just had no interest in quelling these ridiculous riots, where people like the guy that attacked Kyle who died were just running around rampant. And I'm glad that guy's dead. And I'm the other two people who attacked him, I'm not saying they deserve to die because their context of the situation was different. But
saying that you're glad that someone is dead is very different than calling somebody a hero who should have never been there to begin with. It was stupid, and most reasonable people would agree he should have never been there in that situation, and even Kyle Rittenhouse has been on the record as saying that. So he made a grave mistake being there to begin with.
Well, he's going to say he should have never been there after he killed people. Of course, he's going to probably feel that way.
So let me ask you a question. If you had a 17-year-old son, and there was a very dangerous protest going on and violence going on, you think it'd be a good idea as a parent to give your son, a 17-year-old, an AR-15 and have him show up in camouflage? You think that's a good idea? Is that responsible parenting? Yeah,
probably not.
Probably not. How about just no? Instead of probably, how about just no? Come on, David. You know that's not a good idea. Come on, man.
Sure, fine. I mean, his mother was definitely irresponsible, but I don't think that he is the sole person here who's in the wrong.
Okay, saying that he's the sole person, I never said he's the only person that's in the wrong. You made the case that he's a patriot and a hero, and I could not disagree with you more. He's a stupid kid that made a very stupid mistake, in part of why people were shot. He's not entirely responsible. I do believe he was defending himself, but at the same time, he should have never been there. Extremely dumb and immature. And here's something else for you. Someone that you've called a patriot and a hero. Hold on one more second. Patriot and a hero. During his trial, he shows up at a bar with a bunch of Proud Boy members. We know that they're a hate group. And he shows the white supremacist side in pictures that were circulated on social media. Yes, that's right. The Proud Boy members, he showed the white supremacist sign, known as the OK sign in pictures, with a bunch of white Proud Boy members in the middle of his trial. What does that tell you about Kyle Rittenhouse? Either he's extremely stupid or bigoted in nature or both, because that's not normal behavior.
That proves nothing.
Yes, it does. It proves a lot.
What does it prove?
It proves that he's an idiot and he's probably a racist bigot. People who use the white supremacist sign and hang out with Proud Boy members shows you what type of people they are. Normal people that are not racist, including people in the middle of trials, don't hang out with Proud Boy members showing the white supremacist sign. That's what the guy who you call a hero and a patriot did. He used the white supremacist sign hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members in a bar.
So that white supremacist sign thing was such a joke because it was never a white supremacist sign until Democrats just started.
Okay, so let's go with that. Sign. So let's go with that for a moment. So you mean to say that Kyle Rittenhouse arranged to meet with a bunch of Proud Boy members in a bar, by the way, a known hate group, and just by chance, it's just coincidence that he's hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists, and he just decided to take a picture. Haven't seen him do this in any other pictures, by the way, just with the white supremacists, and he was just doing, hey, everything's A-okay, I'm okay, and it had nothing to do with white supremacy. Are you making that claim? He hasn't done...
No. What I'm saying is the reason people started putting up that sign was because all these Democrats were saying the OK sign is now a white supremacist.
I don't care what Democrats.
So people are saying this is ridiculous.
I don't speak to Democrats.
So they do it as a joke.
Okay, sure. Well, I don't speak for Democrats, and I don't care what they say. All I'm telling you is this. It's not a coincidence that Kyle Rittenhouse was hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members in the middle of his trial, white supremacists, and that all of a sudden he uses, as you would define it, as the OK sign. I define it as a white supremacist sign. By the way, the same sign that Roger Stone has used and others from right-wing fringe groups. Now, if you can show me a picture,
like Obama.
So if you can show me a picture of Barack Obama hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists using that sign, then I will agree with you.
But I can show you a picture of him using that sign. So by that logic, he's what, therefore a white supremacist? I mean, it's just a ridiculous argument.
It's not a ridiculous argument because it's you guys always seem to say context matters. Let me repeat myself once again. Mm-hmm. He was hanging out with a bunch of hate group, Proud Boy member, white supremacists. Barack Obama wasn't hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists when you claim he used that sign. There is a difference. Context matters. And by the way, Kyle Rittenhouse was the guy that was seen at a Black Lives Matter protest with an AR-15 dressed in camouflage, and a week before dreaming of killing a bunch of black people that were shoplifting. So I think context matters a little bit, and I think most people would say the context is a little different between a Barack Obama and a guy that was hanging out with a right-wing white supremacist fringe group using that same sign, sir.
It still doesn't really prove anything or matter to the case. Again, the people who attacked him were, that's why he killed them, because they were attacking him. He didn't just kill innocent people.
If you think that Kyle Rittenhouse,
I agree that he's dumb. He was a young dumb kid.
Okay,
but
well,
I disagree.
It's more than just being dumb. Okay, by the way, that person that you characterize as a young dumb kid is put on a pedestal by right-wing, far-right Republicans like Turning Point USA, who actually reward him and pay him to speak on college campuses. You're right. He's extremely stupid. He's a very dumb, naive kid who's now getting rewarded, by the way, for his stupidity. I appreciate the call, Dave. I completely disagree with you. Patriots, heroes, we hear the same thing about January 6th. Donald Trump, I would imagine the guy who you voted for, calls those who assaulted police officers that day on January 6th, those who beat police officers with their own batons, lost fingers, lost eyes. He characterized those criminals and those thug terrorists as patriots. 702